Okay, well, a very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on the session today. This is part of a series we're doing called Going Open Book. And we are here with Leon from Epic Hospitality. Leon, thank you for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
A fantastic client of the hospitality company, along with Greg, who have a company based in Wellington. And they have been really leaders in implementing open book in the hospitality industry over the last year or so. So for those of you who are listening to this, we hope this serves as some encouragement to you about the process of open book. And it's great to hear it from someone who's actually been doing it, implementing it, and who's starting to see some really great results, both culturally and financially. And to hear from a hands-on operator who is running an organization that is using open book. So Leon, can I just start by, first of all, letting how people find out about you and the company Epic Hospitality. Can you tell us a bit about your story?
Where to start? Where to start? I originally don't have a hospitality background. I moved to Wellington a long time ago to study film and music. And life changes and you find your path eventually. But I met Greg, my partner, about 12 years ago, and he already had a 3-level sort of multi-site on Dixon Street in Wellington, and I became involved in that about 12 years ago. And that site didn't work out. Rent was really expensive. Closed that one down, and then sort of started around that time on our current lot of sites. And since then, we've built 6. Greg's the mastermind behind all of that, building and concept and getting the theming going. And I do all the system side of things and the HR. So it's been a huge learning journey. We've got 4 now. We closed another one of them down and sold one of our nightclubs to our then operations manager a few years ago. So we've got 4 awesome, well-performing sites at the moment. And every day is a learning curve, and you learn on the job. And there's been a lot of awesome things that have happened over the last 12 years, that's for sure. But I think especially in the last couple of years, the real good work has been happening with OBM and working with the hospitality company as well.
Well, thank you. Well, this is not a plug for the hospitality company, but
It's true, though. It's true.
we appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Can I just pick up there, and I don't want to get distracted by IBM, but I really do, having worked with the both of you, you are the classic case of a partnership where you're different in your different strengths.
Yeah.
And that, in my view of the two of you together, seems to work well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a sort of clashes every now and then, but we're very different. Greg's big picture thinking and very ambitious and broad brushstrokes, and has the big goals and all that. And I'm very one thing at a time, detail oriented. And we bring a lot of different strengths to it as well. I mean, his background is very different to mine. With, I've been a student for a long time. I'm still studying as well. I've got a number of different qualifications. And, recently we've really started to realize and celebrate and communicate with our teams what each of us bring from our sort of various parts of our previous lives contribute so much to where the organization is at the moment and where we're moving forward. And I think it's really been really powerful to share, our histories and our learnings and our failures to the individuals that make up our teams as well. And that's been really powerful.
Right. But I know you're doing that incredibly well. So although we could actually, you would be great to interview for 3 hours on a whole bunch of topics. I've seconded you into 30 minutes, so I'll make the most of that, and really zero in on OBM because I know it is something that you as an organisation and you and Greg as leaders have really embraced. So let's start with the questions here that I've got here. Question number 1 is, what made you look at OBM in the first place?
Well, we've had a variety of mentors and coaches in the past however many years, and a couple of advisory boards. And then our main supplier, Asahi, knew of you, was working with you. That was early last year, and very early last year, and got us in touch with you for it was about 12 coaching sessions, and you did a deep dive into the business, had a look at all our financials, exactly where we were. We had a different company name at that point. We were Hospo Gurus, and I think the very first thing that we worked on with you was open book management. And yeah, and that all came from that suggestion from Asahi. So it's interesting how things sort of pan out. Just one little conversation has led into this massive redevelopment of, you know, our whole system and culture.
Right. Okay, so that was the beginning point. There was a catalyst there for you, and there often is to OBM, people needing to look at running that company or their business in a different way. So that was great. So when I was teaching you about OBM and explaining it to you what the system for OBM is, what were your initial concerns as you went to start it and implement it into the business?
I think team buy-in was initially a concern. I didn't have too many concerns though, because it was packaged so well, and the fact that there is a whole lot of research and case studies, which you communicated so well, and going on that journey of learning, you know, where it's from, where it's been pulled from in terms of successful United States businesses.
Yes.
That research was already there, and it was just a very compelling kind of story as to why it will work here, and especially in our businesses as well. So there weren't really too many concerns.
Right. Okay. In that initial learning phase and startup phase, what were the parts of it that got you most excited?
The huddles, the weekly huddles with our teams sounded, well, just immediately sounded great in terms of a really great 1 hour per site deep dive into performance and targets and everything that's gone on in the past week and what's coming up.
Because can I ask you, what were you doing before you started running the huddles in an OBM framework? What were you doing in terms of those weekly comms before you were doing the huddles?
We would have weekly managers meetings with all the managers across all the sites. So we weren't actually having weekly meetings with everyone.
Right. Okay. Okay. So it was a shift in the way in which you communicated.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, right. So sorry, I interrupted. So you're excited about the huddles. Was there anything else that caught you in the learning of OBM that you went, well, this is going to be really great for us?
Oh, the revenue share, absolutely. It made complete sense from an engagement point of view, but also sharing the success of the business with the people that deserve it the most. You know, your biggest asset, your teams and your employees, and that was probably one of the biggest things I was excited about. And same with, you know, working towards targets daily and weekly targets, KPI, cost of good wage targets for the managers. And just the general sense of engagement that the system sort of guarantees from staff was all very excited to start with.
Right. And that links probably into the next question, which was, what have been the most enjoyable parts of implementing the OBM system into the company?
Paying the revenue share is actually really enjoyable. Because it's really cool to just really easily and on a weekly basis recognize hard work and achievement and growth. And so it sounds strange to be excited about paying people more, but it really is because they've achieved what they're meant to be focusing on. And, you know, as part of that is just like the incredible level of engagement we saw straight away from implementing OBM, especially with the huddles and the targets and the vision and where we're trying to go, and the fact that we're opening up the whys and the systems within the business for everyone to be a part of. So that really deep sense of engagement happened quite quickly, as well as that sort of general overall enhanced participation from any sort of role, staff member that was involved, kitchen hands, cleaner, cook, glassy, duty manager. Everyone was just a lot more participative and engaged and enthusiastic as well. I've written down a whole list as well. Intercompany competition, and seeing people become much more trusting of us as an organization,
Right,
where we were
right.
going as well.
So a couple of things there. I want to come back to the trusting bit, but was there anything that you felt you and Greg as leaders did that got that? Because from my perspective, from the outside looking in, you seem to have got that engagement very quickly in the process. Was there
Yeah.
anything that you can sort of say, I think it was because we did it this way that seemed to get that? Was there something in the culture that was already existing that helped support that? Do you know why you got that so quickly, that level of engagement?
I think a couple of things. Partly because of us and who we are, and that we are very upfront and engaged and visible in business. People know a lot about us, where we've come from. We're always very present and engaged. But I think even more specifically was how we rolled out, implemented, and introduced open book management as well. And so there was quite a bit of a groundwork that happened on that in terms of setting up the systems so that they worked and they made things easy and visible to everyone, getting all that sorted before we even launched it so that everyone had the tools and knew the rules. And
Right.
then we had those 3 sessions with you over 3 weeks, training our then teams
Mm.
on the rules and the purpose. And we had a whole lot of PowerPoint presentations that we put together as well. So we sort of did an official launch of it, really. It wasn't we'll shuffle it in. It was very much introduced and launched, and celebrated. And so I think everyone got that real sense of this is the big change we're making. We changed our organization name to Epic Hospitality at that time as well. So it was a very big shift,
Yeah, so you really did a lot, didn't
and
you?
something that stuck as well.
Right, right. And then the second point, which was your last point before, was regarding how the open book management approach and sharing the critical numbers of the business, the impact that had on trust between employees and you as the leaders of the company. Could you tell us a bit about that?
I think just if people are have everything shared with them and have complete transparency, that just naturally fosters trust. And for us, especially for me, I've found the types of conversations you have with your people are uh, a lot more deeper and more engaging. You get a better sense of who your individuals are, where they've come from, and where they're going.
Right.
And they are at the same time really interested and concerned about the same things in yourself as well, not just from a personal point of view, but from the organization.
Right, right. Great, great. Um, was there any surprises that you got as you implemented the system in and started to run the huddles every week and share the numbers? Was there anything that surprised you that was happening culturally or within individuals that caught your attention in those early months?
Well, I remember I asked you just before we launched OBM, I thought, how quickly should we see an increase in sales because of the revenue share and the targets and the game mentality around it, as well as the buy-in. And given that we'd already done all that groundwork and getting it properly launched, um,
Yes.
I guess I was still surprised to see how quickly the sales lifted significantly, um, as well as how quickly and solidly that system and way of operating became really deeply embedded into our culture.
Right. So that increase in sales that you started to see quite immediately in launching OBM, what was it about OBM's relationship to sales that you think saw that growth? Where was how did that all come together?
Well, I think for the individuals and the teams themselves, they knew where they were heading, and
Right.
they therefore had those financial goals and market posts and they were really incentivized because they saw a piece of the pie as well, and it was just around that direction where we were trying to head, and it was communicated pretty clearly as well. So I think that was a large part of it, having those daily targets, understanding how to get to those targets and be a bit more creative in terms of a selling system and developing what we call epic moments, which are around experience for our guests, changing the mentality of not thinking of our customers as customers, but as guests in our own home and environment, where we, create that sense of trust and repeat visits and fun and favoritism and all those things. It was all around that culture, and I think that enthusiasm from the staff just naturally led to an increase in sales.
Right. Now, I didn't have this question on there, so I'm going to throw this at you.
Cool.
But you're warmed up now, so I can give you a couple of Googles. One was so there's the owner leading OBM within the entire organization, but I'm particularly interested to see from your perspective what impact OBM has had on your managers, your site managers, in their management and leadership on a daily or weekly basis.
I think it's become a lot more solid and structured for them. Again, because it's such a well-refined system and people know what's expected of them. Obviously, we set up Jolt as well to have all our tasks done and the expectations around that. And I think that I know that's freed up a lot more time for the managers to focus more on the leadership aspect as well, so leading people towards success. And I think that's been one of the biggest, I'm probably going off tangent here, but it's been one of the biggest shifts that we've seen in our managers moving more towards a leadership role. And that's been certainly really great for our staff as well, and for our individual managers as well.
Right. So, I mean, you've heard it lots, and I'm assuming probably the people listening to this who are in our community have heard me say this, and Liz, but we talk about the best managers think and act like owners. Yeah. Do you see that OBM supported managers to think more and act like owners because of the transparency created through OBM?
Oh, absolutely. And it's probably not just because they're incentivized on, getting their COGS and wage targets and that kind of thing. Although that's probably a large part of it, but it's about that transparency of all the million different things that we have to do to sustain and grow a business. And we've been very transparent about that as well. And so I think the quality of our managers and their skills has improved a lot over the last year and a half, couple of years, because of this way of operating. And we've always shared P&Ls with them. And this is just a whole lot deeper into why all the different things we do and are picky about makes such a difference.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because they get that full picture. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Excellent. Really, really interesting. So there's going to be people who are listening to this. They might listen in a week's time. They might be listening to this in a year's time, and they are learning open book. They might have done one of our courses. They might be early in their coaching relationship with the hospitality company, and OBM is becoming a conversation and something that we're encouraging them to look at. What would you be saying to them as they look to embark on the implementation of OBM?
Do it. I've got another let's see, and do it's up the top for sure. Not just for the financial growth of the company. It's not just about that. It's one of the things we noticed, and that I'm sure everyone that really spends the time implementing OBM and continues down that learning and growth journey, is that they'll realize that they've created, especially we felt this as well, vastly more enjoyable places to own and work and run and engage with the people as well. Everything's become a lot more enjoyable and meaningful and purposeful as well. I think some of those that are the big differences that we've noticed, especially with this system.
So you're saying there that not only is it having an impact on the daily engagement that managers, employees have within the organization, your engagement as leaders with your own company has been enhanced.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the really strong things about OBM and the work that we've been doing, the expanding work we're doing with you, is just how important transparency and fostering relationships with your people are, because really the why of your business is actually the people, and really getting to know them and know where they're going, and realizing that you have that responsibility to grow them and to give them purpose and all of those things, because they're there for all the people in your business are there for such a long period of their life during the
Yes.
day, and
Yes.
for however many years. It's our responsibility to give them something that challenges them, gives them a really good start in if they're going to end up opening their own businesses or becoming future managers or leaders or business owners. And so I think that for us has, on a reciprocal thing, has become really, really enjoyable as well, because we can see those growth moments happening with every individual person.
Yeah, and that feels good, isn't it? Knowing that you're teaching someone something to someone where it's a defining time of their careers,
Absolutely, yeah.
rather than just being a stepping stone to somewhere more meaningful. You are being a meaningful place for them to work and learn.
Yeah, and another note I wrote is that you get better problems as well.
Yeah,
Previously, pre-OBM, it was not good problems. There's always problems, but the problems now are better, and more interesting and exciting, and they're shared problems as well because of the structure of OBM.
yeah,
The people within it are thinking of those problems and also thinking of how to work through them, or strategies to overcome them to make things better. So it's everyone is working collaboratively and building the system. It's not just led by us now. It's not sort of force fed to everyone. People are living and breathing it.
right. Well, that is brilliant. Well, look, I want to thank you very, very much for your insights here. I'm feeling inspired as I listen to you. So I'm sure when others hear it, they will be inspired too. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for, I believe, inspiring lots and lots of people that will listen to this in the months and even years ahead, as we share this story of going open book with you and with our community. So on behalf of the organisation, on behalf of our community, thank you for your time today.
You're welcome.
And we really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks.